There we go. Nope. All right. You want to say something, Dave? All right. No.
On behalf of the board, welcome to the Temple of Israel.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Both those of you who are here in our sanctuary and on the beginning, I should say, of a special occasion as we are celebrating with Harper and her family as she is preparing to officially become bat mitzvah tomorrow morning, but she'll help us lead our service this evening. I want to say a few things before we begin our service. The first is, as you can see in the sanctuary, there is a screen which has all of the prayers that we'll be doing for our service this evening. If you'd like to participate with a prayer book, you are certainly welcome to, and I will announce the page numbers as they come up if you'd like to use a book instead of looking at the screen. I also want to say, as a matter of our service, both for those of you in the sanctuary and on Zoom, that I want to acknowledge that as I give certain cues throughout the service to please rise or please be seated, that I'm inviting us to rise either in body or in spirit as our abilities allow. And I hope that our service together will be one that allows us to find a sense of Shabbat meaningfulness and peace. I also want to say that I'm very excited for Harper to join me in just a few minutes because I know how hard she's worked to be able to lead us in prayer, both this evening and tomorrow morning. So I'm looking forward to your presence next to me in a few moments. And I know that you are going to do phenomenally because you've been practicing really hard, and it's just an exciting moment. So we are going to begin expressing our gratitude to God on page 126. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to help work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. We'll continue with the words of Psalm 133, Hine ma tov u'manaim shevet achim gam yachad, how good it is for all of us to dwell together. We are going to continue our service singing on page 130, again from the book of Psalms, Lechuna Ramen, giving thanks for all of God's gifts of creation. That's weird. Oh, goodness. Well, hopefully everyone will still be able to hear me on Zoom. Okay, we lost that camera. We're going to continue, nevertheless, on page 138, welcoming Shabbat by singing the words of the poem Lecha Dodi. If you're looking in the prayer books, we're going to be reading verses 1, or singing together verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And as we reach the final verse, we'll stand and face the entryway to welcome Shabbat like a bride or a queen.
Ya la 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 parodi. Ya la 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 Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nechadena.
we are going to continue as we light the Shabbat candles. I'd like to invite Jill Novick, who's going to join me on the bima, as well as Harper, if you could come up also, as we kindle the Shabbat lights. We are going to continue. I forgot to mention before, if you are using a prayer book, some of our prayer books have two sets of numbers. And if you have one of the prayer books that have two sets of numbers, we're looking at the page numbers with brackets. If not, you should be fine just following what I say. We're going to continue on page 144 with the Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael bagala bagala uvizman kariv V'imeru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevora le'alam u'lam me'almaya yitbarach yitbarach v'yishtabach yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh yitadar v'yitalev yithalal shemei dekedusha breichu Leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma ve'imeru amen. We'll rise for a call to prayer, Baruch Hu, on page 146. Continue on the top of page 149.
Praise to you, Adonai our God. For this, wait,
149.
oh, sorry.
Or at the bottom of page 149. My bad. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of life. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. On the top of page 151.
As you
Taught Torah to those whose names I bear. Teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We'll rise together for Shema on page 152 and 153. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Please be seated. We'll continue on page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו מה עשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Continue on the top of page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. We continue with our prayer for freedom and redemption, Miha Mocha, on page 158. We'll continue on the top of page 161. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, apores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We'll continue with a song for Shabbat as we join together in singing Shamru. Beshamru b'nei Yisrael Hashabbat la'asot et Hashabbat ledorotam berit olam Beini ubein b'nei Yisrael Oti leolam Oti leolam Beshamru b'nei Yisrael Hashabbat la'asot et Hashabbat ledorotam berit olam Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz veshamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabbat la'asot et hashabbat ledorotam berit olam Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Veshamru b'nei Yisrael Hashabbat la'asot et Hashabbat ledorotam berit olam. We'll continue with our tefillah as we rise together. We'll begin on page 164 and we'll continue on even numbered pages. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, El Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham be'ezrat Sarah. Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol tarab lehoshia, Mechalkel chaim b'chesed, Mechaye hakol be'rachamim rabim, Tomech noflim be'rofech cholim, Umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishene afar, micha mocha ba'al gevurot, umido melach, melech memit umechaye, umatmiach Yeshua. V'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hakol. We'll continue on page 171 at the top. Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Blessed is the Eternal One, the Holy God. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated. Thank you, Harper. We'll continue on the top of page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh hashabbat. And on page 177 at the top. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul or light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha l'chan el hodot. We'll continue with the prayer for peace, Shalom Rav, on page 178. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Nasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Nasim Leolam. Nasim Leolam. Nasim Leolam.
Continue with a moment for our own quiet thoughts and prayers.
Yehu leratzon imrei fi vehekyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai Turi Vegoali Vegoali Yehu leratzon Imrei fi Vehegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri Vegoali Vegoali
We devote the next few moments of our service to hold in our hearts those who are in need of a prayer of healing, whether we're thinking of them or needing a healing of body, of mind, or of spirit. If you are on Zoom and you'd like to share the name of someone who you're thinking of who's in need of a prayer of healing, please type their name in the chat and I'll read their names in a moment. And if there's someone who you're thinking of and you're in the sanctuary and you'd like to share their name, as I look your way, please feel free to say that. Raj Gabel, Warren Siegel, Esther Greenwald, Ursula Hartunian, Tim Williams, Jasmine Clapperich, Ward Becker, Charlie Guberman, Russ Everett, Summer Perkins and the Perkins family, Johanna Woolman, Sherry Jackson, for all those we're holding in our hearts for a prayer of healing, we say Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh HaCholim. Blessed is God who brings healing to those who are in need of healing. Also think of Jasmine McCammon as we sing Mishabeh on page 371. Mishabeh Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishebeira imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Shabbat shalom, everyone. I'm going to end my screen share for a moment. And all right. So we are in the fourth Torah portion of our cycle of the year. What Harper is going to read from us tomorrow is a famous passage from the story of Abraham, where he almost sacrifices his son Isaac. And as I was thinking about what I wanted to share this evening, the theme of Abraham as being kind of an expert negotiator was running through my head. There's so many stories in the Torah, especially in these first few Torah portions, about opportunities for negotiations, in particular, opportunities to negotiate for some kind of settlement which will bring healing to people. And Abraham is known for being righteous and was chosen, at least according to rabbinic tradition, for being righteous enough to be the grandfather of our tradition, precisely because he knew when to argue and when to argue for the sake of justice and righteousness, except for two really important moments. One of them, and the rabbis don't overlook these moments in terms of their analysis of him as being a righteous arguer. But one of these moments is precisely when God says, take your son, Isaac, and offer him as an offering on the altar. Abraham doesn't question that at all. He just goes and starts to do it before he's stopped. And I know Harper is going to say a little bit more about that story tomorrow. The part of this, the second part that I want to talk a little bit about is a story of exile, essentially, where Abraham, who has his first son with his wife Hagar, that Sarah and Hagar cannot get along. And in the context of the story, Abraham is also not able to serve as the negotiator or the mediator over the negotiation in order to solve that issue. And he inevitably is forced to send Hagar and Ishmael away into the wilderness. And so I was really thinking about that story in particular as I was looking for things to bring forward this evening. But what I came across in my research was I felt much more powerful, actually. And it wasn't about Abraham, but it was a modern attempt to bring to light the voice of Sarah and Hagar into the context of the story. And I know one of the things that Harper and I talked about when we were going over her Torah portion together was this idea that when women's voices in the Bible appear, they're oftentimes shrugged off or given less importance. And so the idea that we have, at least in a modern context, an attempt to give voices to these women in the story was really meaningful. I found this on one of my favorite websites called thetorah.com. And it presents scholarly articles from a variety of different perspectives on the Torah. And this one was presented by Noam Tzion, who is a senior faculty member and curriculum writer for the Hartman Institute. And he, among other books, he is the author of my favorite Haggadah, which is called A Different Night, for Passover. But he's also written a book called The Foundations of Family Conflict and Reconciliation in Genesis. And so this article he wrote puts together two poems that were not written to go together, but I think are really powerful when you look at them back to back. The first one was written from the perspective of Sarah. It was written by a renewal rabbi. Her name is Rabbi Lynn Gottlieb. And so she took up the challenge, wishing to demonstrate that animosity over patriarchal favor among rival co-wives, being the co-wives of Abraham, could be reconciled. And so her poem, I'm going to read the poem, and then I'm going to read a little bit of commentary that Noam brings forward. But the poem is called Akhti, which is actually the Arabic word for my sister, which means my sister. So these are the words of Sarah towards Hagar. I'm pained I did not call you by the name that your mother gave you. I cast you aside. I cursed you with my barrenness and my rage. I called you stranger, Hagar, as if it were a sin to be from another place. Akhti, they used me to steal your womb, claim your child, as if I owned your body and your labor. I, whom they called Sarah, see far woman, could not witness my own blindness. But you, my sister, you beheld angels, made miracles in the desert, received divine blessings from a God who stopped talking to me. Only at the end, when I witnessed my young son screaming under his father's knife, only then did I realize our common suffering. And I called out, Abraham, Abraham, hold back your knife. My voice trumpeted into the silence of my sin. Forgive me, Akhti, for the sin of neglect, for the sin of abuse, for the sin of arrogance. Forgive me, Akhti, for the sin of not knowing your name. Again, not intentionally as a response, but when juxtaposed in this article, it serves as a response written by Moja Kaf, who is a Syrian-American poet and novelist and a professor. And she wrote a poem titled Hagar Writes a Cathartic Letter to Sarah as an exercise suggested by her therapist. Here's that poem. Dear Sarah, life made us enemies, but it doesn't have to be that way. What if we both ditched the old man? He could have visitation rights to the boys, alternate weekends and holidays. Yeah, especially the Feast of the Sacrifice. Everybody has forgotten anyway that it began with me abandoned in the desert watching my baby dehydrate for days. I dared God to let us die. Anyway, you and I, we'd set up a house, raise the kids, start a catering business maybe. You have brains, so do I. We could travel. There are places to see besides Ur and this Nowheresville desert with its tribes of hooligans. No, your lips always thin when you disapprove, like the mother I can hardly remember from before I wound up in your house. I was barely more than a girl. You are the one who brought me there from Egypt. You used to laugh back then. In those days, you could bear to look at me. Oh, Sarah, you need years of therapy. Can't you admit that what he did to me was cruel? Admit it for just 1 second. It won't make you hate him forever. Just long enough to know the world won't fall apart. Long enough to pity him, yourself, me. Laugh, Sarah, laugh. Imagine God, the possibility. And then there's a visual cue that you can't see by me doing it, other than to say that the word sincerely is written, crossed out, and then put love, Hagar. There's so many pieces of these poems, and if I had more time, I'd like an hour to discuss this with you all. But since we don't have that time right now, I really wanted to just say, I think the intention that I had by bringing these poems forward was to talk about how in the world that we live in, we always have choices to make. That's really what the conversation about Abraham throughout his series of Torah portions where he's the main character is about. The choices that we make, in particular, how we choose to relate to other people. What I really love about these two poems is that it takes the choice, in this case, away from Abraham. Even though he's the holder of power, Sarah and Hagar, who are in their own rights powerful survivors of all sorts of things, have the ability to find a solution to a problem that in at least in their day, we don't see as being solvable. These two poems collectively, I think, serve as a reminder that no matter the issues that we have with perhaps members of our family, perhaps those who we have other disagreements with, our neighbors, people who we would consider political rivals, that if we look hard enough, we can find a kind of compassion and empathy for each other and figure out a solution to solve some of life's more challenging issues. And with that, I will wish you a Shabbat Shalom. I'm going to reshare my screen. And we are going to continue with Aleinu, and I invite everyone to please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'atei kedula liyotzeh breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzon, velo samanu kemishpachot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Please be seated. We'll continue on the top of page 591. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Love each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. We devote the next few moments of our service to honor the memories of those who we have loved and lost. First, holding in our heart Jennifer Woolman, who we are in a period of Shloshim within 30 days of her death. And we also remember those for whom the Shabbat and the previous week are a yahrzeit anniversary of their passing. Ken Sudano, Harry Fox, Werner Goldman, Albert Jacobson, Irving Slade, Charles A. Saltzman, Bertie Donner, Dr. Sandra M. Mayer, Wayne Cody Garst, and Regina Schwechter Zobel. And we add to these names those of loved ones we're holding in our hearts at this time. If you're on Zoom and you'd like to put their name in the chat, I'll read them in a moment. And if you're in the sanctuary, as I look your way. We say Zichronam Livracha. All of our loved ones who came before us, we say Zichronam Livracha. May their memories be forever a blessing. We'll turn to page 598 as we rise together for Mourner's Kosh. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba, ve'alma divra chirutei v'yimlich malchutei, v'chai echon u'vyom echon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kariv yimru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'olam u'amei amei. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekadusha b'richu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlom min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. May the one who makes peace in the heavens on high bring peace to us here on earth, to all the people of Israel and all the people of the world. And may God send comfort to all those who are in mourning. Together we say, Amen. Please be seated. We have a few announcements. First, our service tomorrow is going to be at 10:15. We'll start at 10:15. I'm excited again for Harper to join me as she officially becomes bat mitzvah in the morning and gets to read Torah for us and lead us in prayer. Very exciting. The following Shabbat, Friday, October 29th, is our annual Pink and Teal Shabbat. The Greenville Jewish Federation, Sharsheret, Temple of Israel, and Congregation Beth Israel are coming together again in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month and Ovarian Cancer Awareness. We do have a registration link for this with an attendance cap of 60 people. So if you would like to join us for that service, again, next Friday evening, please sign up, and I hope to see you there. It will be here. It is going to be here this year. The Next thing I have, Temple of Israel's book club is going to be back, meeting again on November 2nd at 7:30 p.m. We're reading The Lost Letter by Gillian Cantor, which is a heartbreaking, heartwarming historical novel of love and survival, inspired by real resistance workers during World War II Austria, and the mysterious love letter that connects generations of Jewish families. I have found that as we've had these book club sessions that even if you haven't read the book or haven't finished the book, that you should still come. They've been a lot of fun. The discussions have been good. And you can find the link for the Zoom meeting on in our email, in our weekly email, or on our website. On November 13th, we have a movie night sponsored by the membership committee of the temple. So Saturday, November 13th at 5:30 p.m. Bring your lawn chairs or your blankets and a flashlight maybe. We're going to do Havdalah first before the movie begins, and then we're going to provide popcorn and drinks. But if you'd like, bring a picnic dinner. And we're going to watch Keeping the Faith, a timeless romantic comedy. A rabbi and a priest who are best friends from childhood fall for the same woman. It should be fun to get together and watch this movie. And it has one of my favorite rabbi movie scenes ever, where he's tutoring a bar mitzvah kid. And then the day after, on November 14th, from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, we are joining together with PJ Library to have an event at the Flying Rabbit, which is a new ropes course zip lining facility. PJ Library normally provides books for Jewish children from age 0 to 8. But PJ Library is doing some outreach programming, and they're co-sponsoring this event with us. Normally, it's a lot more expensive to have an all-access pass to this park, and so we're hoping that by having tickets be $20 per person, that will entice a good number of our people to join us. The Flying Rabbit is also next door to, I think it's called Double Stamp. It's a brewery and a barbecue place. So, and there will be discounts to both of those places for joining us. So please, if you can, sign up. There's a link to register also that you should have received an email from earlier today. And I think that's all I have right now. We are going to say Kiddush. And Pat, do you have something to say Motzi over? We're going to use your challah. And we'll say blessing over our children and Motzi, and then we'll conclude our service. So first Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen l'chaim. And a blessing for our children wherever we are and wherever our children are, whether we're sitting next to them or seeing them on our screen in front of us, or thinking about them in our hearts, we say these words of blessing for our kids. May you be blessed like the sons of Joseph, Ephraim, and Manasseh. May you be blessed like the mothers of our people, like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. We wish these blessings for you, that you should always be proud of who you are and strive to be the best version of yourselves, with these words of blessing from the Torah. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's light shine on you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence always feel close to you, and may you always be blessed with the most important gifts of wholeness and peace. We say together, Amen. And Pat, do you have something for Motzi? There you go. Pat's holding it for her. Motzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Te'avon, Pat. We are going to conclude our service singing Oseh Shalom, a prayer for peace. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here on Zoom. I hope everyone has a peaceful Shabbat. I'm going to turn off all of the